I jolted awake to the unmistakable sound of water splashing and a scream that sliced through the morning stillness like a thunderclap. My initial thought was that the neighbor's cat had tumbled into my pool again. But a far more terrifying realization hit me as I flung open my sliding glass door and was met with the dazzling sparkle of a rhinestone-trimmed sun hat, a drifting martini glass, and the shrill, grating cackle of none other than Deborah, floating in my pool. She was perched on my flamingo floatie, draped in my citrus-patterned towel. I stood there, shirtless and dumbfounded, gripping my coffee mug like it was a grenade. Deborah didn't even blink. She just sipped her drink, waved lazily, and smirked. "Morning, neighbor." "Big business, you wouldn't get it." Let me clarify something. Deborah isn't just a neighbor. She's the HOA monarch, the supreme ruler, and the unofficial enforcer of our little suburban kingdom. She's the kind of person who'd report you for breathing too loudly. Once, she tried to slap me with a fine for unauthorized mailbox decor because I'd hung a seasonal wreath. But this was a new level of HOA tyranny. I blinked hard, praying it was just a caffeine-starved mirage. It wasn't. 3 other women, decked out in sun hats and high-end swimsuits, were frolicking in my pool like it was a luxury retreat. Deborah's portable speaker blared a cheesy lounge remix of Sweet Dreams. My dog, Tank, sat by the door, observing the madness like it was his personal Netflix binge. Finally, I found my voice. "Deborah, what in the sanitized hell are you doing in my pool?" She drifted closer, sipping again. "It's community access now. Temporary authorization. HOA subsection 9C permits coordinated resident wellness events in shared spaces. You should read your handbook sometime." Then, with gall that could choke a horse, she lobbed a laminated binder at me. It plopped into the shrubs like a soggy brick. One of her cronies giggled and splashed water onto my freshly scrubbed grill. I stared at the binder like it was cursed. I knew no such rule existed, but with Deborah, facts were irrelevant. Only dominance mattered. I tried calling the HOA board to lodge a complaint. Predictably, no one picked up. One voicemail was full. Another greeted me with Deborah's smug voice. My gut twisted. I fired off an email, automated reply. "We'll address your issue in 4 to 6 weeks." Classic. That's when it sank in. This wasn't just Deborah being wrong. It was her winning. By afternoon, a sign sprouted on my gate. "Welcome to Community Pool B. Swim va sip Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. My name was nowhere on it. Just the HOA logo and a tacky font straight out of a yard sale flyer. I wanted to torch it, but I held back. If I lost my cool, I'd be the bad guy in her twisted narrative. I needed to strike at her Achilles heel, her pride. That night, I paced my garage, muttering like a deranged inventor. My pool stared back at me, a traitor. Then, genius struck in the goofiest corner of Dale's Discount Depot, the novelty aisle. There, dangling like a prize, was a bag of 500 ultra-realistic, water-floating plastic beetles, complete with spindly legs and beady eyes. Not snakes, not lizards, beetles. It was diabolical. I snagged the biggest pack, tossed in a bubble machine, and grabbed waterproof Bluetooth speakers for good measure. This wasn't just payback, it was a full-on terror spectacle. The next day, I prepped like a spy on a mission. I tested the beetles in a kiddie pool. They were disturbingly lifelike, even spooking me. I synced the bubble machine to my phone, set the speakers to loop eerie scuttling noises, and stashed 2 GoPros, one in a patio lamp, one under the diving board. This wasn't revenge, it was retribution. Deborah wanted a spa day? She'd get a nightmare instead. I barely slept, wired like a kid on Christmas Eve, except my gift was a showdown with a control freak in a stolen pool float. I triple-checked everything. Remotes, camera angles, beetle drop points. I even practiced my line. "Welcome to Beetle Bay, Deborah." Dumb? Sure. But dumb with intent. At 10:59 a.m., I peered from my upstairs window as Deborah strutted into my yard in a glittery caftan, her posse of cocktail-sipping moms trailing like royal attendants. I wanted to yell, but I grinned instead. Showtime. Saturday dawned bright and tense, like a fuse about to blow. I was up at dawn, pacing, double-checking my setup. The beetles lurked beneath the water's glassy surface, hidden by its calm sheen. The bubble machine crouched behind a fern, ready to churn out foam and unleash the bugs like a suburban horror flick. The GoPros hummed, My speakers were primed. My fingers hovered over the remote. Then came the telltale clack of Deborah's platform sandals on my patio. She swept in like a diva, her oversized sun hat practically a radar dish. Her crew, Ellen, Trish, and Lori, followed, decked in bling, toting pitchers of sangria, cackling like they hadn't wrecked a soul all month. Deborah shot me a thin smile, the kind you'd flash before slipping a knife between someone's ribs. "Thanks for hosting us, Mark," she chirped. "We'll be gone by 3, unless we extend. Bylaws allow for bonus relaxation time." I nodded, faking a smile worthy of a toothpaste ad. "Enjoy your VIP spa day, Deborah. It's all yours." They settled in fast. Trish claimed my inflatable dolphin, Lori nabbed my prime lounger, and someone cranked up their speaker with soft rock hits. Deborah eased into the pool with the elegance of a soap opera queen. I waited, timing it perfectly. Too early, and it'd flop. Too late, and they'd spot a bug before the foam kicked in. When the laughter peaked and drinks flowed, I pressed the first button. The bubble machine hummed, barely audible over the tunes. Soon, frothy foam spread across the pool, curling around the edges like a creeping mist. Deborah didn't notice, too busy pitching her poodle for an HOA seat. But Ellen squinted. "Deborah, is your pool bubbling?" Deborah waved it off. "Just an upgrade, sweetie, probably some fancy aeration system." That's when I hit the second button. A faint skittering, like bugs scuttling through drywall, seeped from the speakers. It was subtle, then sharp. Deborah's eyes narrowed. "What's that noise?" Lori chuckled uneasily. "Sounds like critters in the plants." The foam hit its stride, and the beetles rose. First one, then dozens, then hundreds, bobbing and twisting in grotesque clumps, their tiny legs glinting in the sun. Ellen screamed first, flailing so hard she flipped the dolphin float and plunged backward. That triggered chaos. Lori slipped on spilled sangria, crashing into Trish like a domino. Deborah froze, then spotted a beetle by her arm. Her shriek could have cracked glass. "They're in the water," she howled, thrashing like she was possessed. "They're in my hair." Pandemonium reigned. Glasses flew, hats sank, the skittering sound swelled. The pool became a frothy mess of bugs and shrieking women. I watched from upstairs, stifling laughter. One GoPro caught Lori sprinting across the yard, yelling, "They're in my swimsuit." I felt one move. Another nabbed Deborah slipping off the pool edge into a beetle cluster. It was poetry. Eventually, they stampeded out my gate, dripping foam and screeching about infestations. Deborah lingered last, soaked, mascara streaking like a bad abstract painting. She jabbed a shaky finger at me. "You'll pay for this, Mark. This was sabotage. You'll hear from my attorney." I shrugged, waving the remote. "Hope you loved your spa day." Later, I posted the footage to a private neighborhood group I'd made, Deborah's Pool Bash, now with extra guests. It hit 300 views fast. By midnight, someone had remixed Deborah's scream into a dance track. Bliss. But victory was fleeting. Next morning, an orange barricade blocked my driveway. "Flood risk area. HOA safety order." My mailbox was zip-tied, and a notice cited me for pool mismanagement and hostile aquatic tampering, signed by Deborah. She'd declared war. The next week was a suburban standoff. Deborah's face was on every HOA notice. Her voice droned through robocalls about safety protocols, and my yard became a cautionary tale. Cones sprouted around my lawn, a flag waved on my mailbox, and violations piled up. One accused me of insect testing, like I was a mad entomologist. She even got my water cut off for a day, claiming leakage risks. Kids gawked at my house like it was a haunted swamp. I tried reasoning with neighbors, but Deborah's fake authority had them convinced I'd snapped. I needed a real counterstrike, legal, ruthless, and final. Enter my aces, Nana and Travis, a drone guy who owed me after I hauled his fish tanks and katanas last summer. Nana, 82, looks like she'd knit you a sweater mid-sermon, but she's Gavel Gertie, retired judge, small claims legend, and the woman who once bullied her landlord into free rent. Over soup, I spilled the saga. She sipped her tea and said, "Time to dethrone the tyrant." Travis flew his drone over Deborah's yard and the HOA office. We expected minor dirt, maybe an unapproved bird bath. Instead, we hit gold. Boxes in her garage, stamped with HOA logos and receipts. Photos showed fire pits, candle halls, and a D. Royce Wellness Initiative, all funded by dues. There was even a gold-plated pool net. Who buys that? Deborah. That night, Nana and I built a dossier, screenshots, invoices, records, enough to make a tax auditor faint. We planned the kill shot, the HOA meeting, Deborah's stage. Words spread via cryptic flyers. Where's your HOA cash going? Cocktails or candles? Tonight. The clubhouse buzzed with nosy residents. Deborah strutted in, smug as ever, launching into a spiel about community standards with sly jabs at me. When she dodged public comments, Nana rose, plugged in a USB, and lit up the projector with drone shots of Deborah's luxe patio, followed by receipt after receipt. All her spending, all her signatures. The crowd roared. She stammered. These are morale boosts. Nana cut her off. Care to explain why your parakeet's an HOA officer? Yep, she'd listed Sir Tweets as a voting member for quorum tricks. Chaos. Neighbors raged. I got fined for a flower pot while she buys gold nets. The vote to oust her was instant. A ban on her future roles passed faster. Then, the zoning guy I'd tipped off weeks back stood up. After the Beetle fiasco went viral-ish, he'd checked records. My property was rezoned out of HOA control years ago. Deborah had zero power over my pool, ever. I nearly wept. The next weekend, I threw a blowout. Foam blasters, tacos, a DJ remixing Deborah's meltdown, and a Beetle piñata. Nana sipped a daiquiri to cheers. Deborah? She vanished. Rumor says she tried ruling a condo HOA, but met a tougher queen with meaner dogs. My pool's mine now, quiet, beetle-free, and perfect. Sometimes, floating with a beer, I replay her screams. Justice, served soggy, never fades.